Welcome to the Complete JavaScript course. In this course, we're going to learn how to build complex websites using JavaScript from a beginner to a professional level. And by the end of this course, we're going to build Amazon.com. So this is an interactive multi-page website where we can add products to our cart, create an order, and even track our order. Along the way, we're also going to build some smaller projects like a rock, paper, scissors game, a to-do list, and a calculator. Now, you don't need any previous coding or technical experience to follow along. This course will cover everything that you need to learn JavaScript. We're going to start from the very basics of JavaScript, and we're going to build our way up step by step. We're going to learn the major features of JavaScript and also how to use JavaScript together with other technologies like HTML and CSS. We're also going to learn more advanced features like object-oriented programming, backend, callbacks, promises, and async await. And we'll use these features together to build a complex project, which is the Amazon project. This will let you practice what you learn and deepen your understanding. You can find the different lessons of this course below the video here and here. If you need to, you can adjust the speed of the video here. And after each lesson, I'm going to give you a bunch of exercises that you can do on your own to practice the skills that we learned. In total, this course will have over 250 exercises. So with that said, let's get started. Before we begin, if something in this course is not working properly, make sure to check the first comment below the video for a list of solutions. I'm going to be doing this course on Windows, but the steps are the same if you're using a Mac. We're going to start from the very basics of JavaScript and build our way up step by step. First of all, what is JavaScript? JavaScript is a technology that we use to create websites. A website is like YouTube.com or Amazon.com. It's how we access YouTube and Amazon on our computer. If we were using a phone, we usually use an app, but on our computer, we use a website. So there's actually three technologies that we use to create websites: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Each of these technologies has a specific purpose when creating a website. HTML creates the content of a website. It creates all the buttons, the text, and the images. CSS changes the appearance of the website. By adding CSS, we can make our website look nice. And finally, JavaScript makes our website interactive. So if we only have HTML and CSS, and we click one of these buttons, our website doesn't do anything. But once we add JavaScript, we can make our website do something when we click a button, such as add a product to our cart or create an order. So this course is focused on JavaScript. If you want to learn HTML and CSS in more detail, I have a full course just like this one that you can find in the video description. Let's get started with JavaScript. The first thing we need to do is to install a piece of software called a web browser. A web browser lets us view websites that we create in this course. The most popular web browser for web development is Google Chrome, so I recommend using that. If you don't have Google Chrome, you can open the default web browser on your computer. For Windows, it's Microsoft Edge, and for Mac, it's Safari. Type in google.com at the top and press enter. Search for Google Chrome. Click the result and follow the instructions to download and install. Once we've installed Chrome, we're ready to begin. We're going to start by learning what exactly is JavaScript and how does it work. The easiest way to understand JavaScript is we're basically giving instructions to a computer, and then the computer follows our instructions. I find the best way to learn this is to jump in and give it a try. So first, let's open Google Chrome. Next, we're going to click at the top here and type supersimple.dev/js-basics and press enter. And now we'll learn how to give our computer some instructions to follow. To do that, we're going to go to a blank area of the web page. We're going to right-click, click Inspect, and then click the Console tab. Now, if your console doesn't show up at the bottom like this, you can click these three dots here, and then select this icon. Okay, so inside the console, we can give some instructions for our computer. Let's learn our first instruction. We're going to type here, and we're going to type alert, open bracket, single quote, hello, single quote, close bracket, and semicolon. Make sure to type this out exactly as I have it here. In JavaScript, if you don't type things out correctly, it won't work. So this is an instruction to create a pop-up with the text hello inside. To get the computer to follow our instruction, we can just press enter. And as you can see, the computer does exactly what we tell it to do. It creates a pop-up with the text hello inside. Now let's press OK. And let's give another instruction to the computer. So we're going to type here again, and we're going to type alert again, open bracket, single quote, but this time we're going to type a different message in the pop-up. Good job, and single quote, close bracket, and semicolon. So this is an instruction to create a pop-up again, but this time with the text good job inside the pop-up. If we press enter, the computer does exactly what we tell it to do, and it creates a pop-up with the text good job inside. And that's basically the main idea behind JavaScript. We're giving instructions to a computer, and then the computer follows our instructions. So note that we can open and use this console on any website. We're just using supersimple.dev as an example. Let's press OK. And we're going to learn some terminology, or naming. The instructions we give to our computer, these instructions are called code. When we press enter and the computer follows our instructions, this is called running the code. Now, there are many different languages we can use to write code, called programming languages. It's similar to how we have many human languages that we can use to communicate. Some examples of programming languages are JavaScript, Python, and Java. So here, we're writing our code using the JavaScript programming language. So we call this JavaScript code. Now that we understand the basic terminology, let's look at some more examples of what we can do with JavaScript code. Another thing we can do is math. Let's go back to the console and type here, and we're going to type 2 plus 2. So this is an instruction or code that tells the computer to do some math, to calculate 2 plus 2. When we press enter, the computer follows our instruction or runs this code, calculates 2 plus 2, and gives us the result, which is 4. Let's do another example. We're going to type 10 minus 3 and press enter to run this code. Again, the computer does this math, calculates the result, and gives us 7. So as you can see, JavaScript can do many different things, like create pop-ups and do math. Let's look at one more example of what JavaScript can do. We're going to go to the bottom and type out this code. document dot body dot inner capital HTML equals single quote hello single quote and semicolon. Make sure to write this out exactly as I have it here, with the dots and the capital letters, because JavaScript is case sensitive. Let's press enter to run this code. What this code does is that it removes everything on the page and replaces it with the text hello. In this example, we use JavaScript to modify the web page. Modifying the web page is one of the most important features of JavaScript, and we're going to be using this feature throughout this course. And that's the basics of JavaScript. We're giving instructions to a computer. These instructions are called code, and then the computer follows our instructions. This is called running the code. And also, don't worry about memorizing all this code. You can find a copy of all the code that we write in this course in the video description. Now that we understand the basics of JavaScript, let's learn more about the JavaScript language itself. If we take a look at this code, alert and hello, you might be wondering what the brackets and the quote mean. All of these characters have a special meaning in the language. This is something called syntax. Syntax are the rules that we have to follow when using a programming language like JavaScript. This is sort of like in English, we also have rules that we follow called grammar. The difference is that in English, we don't have to follow the rules of grammar perfectly. People can still understand us. But in programming, we have to follow the rules of syntax exactly. Otherwise, the computer won't understand our code. For example, if we scroll down and we type this code, alert, open bracket, quote, hello, quote, close bracket, and semicolon, but this time we remove the first bracket and press enter, it will give us a syntax error. We're not following the rules of syntax, so the computer doesn't understand this code. Now, JavaScript has a lot of syntax rules, and we can't learn them all at once right now. Instead, we're going to learn the syntax rules one by one as we go through the course. For now, we'll just learn enough syntax to do the exercises at the end of this lesson. What we need to know is that if we scroll up, this part of the code tells the computer to create a pop-up. The text between these quotes is the text inside the pop-up. If we change this text, we can change the text inside the pop-up. Same thing for this code down here. If we change the text between the quotes, it will change the text that appears on the page. And that's all we need to know about JavaScript syntax for now. We'll learn exactly what the other characters like the brackets, quotes, and semicolon mean later on in this course. So in this lesson, we learned that JavaScript is basically giving instructions to a computer. We wrote our first few lines of JavaScript code. We learned how to run our code using the console in our web browser. And we learned about syntax, which are the rules that we have to follow when writing our code. Thanks for watching this course so far. If you want to support this channel, you can check out the premium version of my courses just like this one, where you can get a certificate of completion and a better learning platform. If you're interested in extra videos from me, more in-depth videos, and behind-the-scenes content, you can check out these links here. You can also support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing this video with others. Thanks again, and let's continue with the course. Here are some exercises you can try on your own to practice what we learned in this lesson. You can find the solutions to these exercises in the video description. Now that we understand the basics of JavaScript, we're going to learn about each feature of the language. In this lesson, we're going to focus on numbers and math. First, we can close the console for now. So I've actually prepared a project that we can use for this lesson. To open this project, we're going to go to our browser, click up here, and type supersimple.dev/projects/Amazon and press enter. So this is actually the final project we're going to create in this course. This is an e-commerce website similar to Amazon, where we can add products to our cart and then view our cart by clicking the top right. And on this page, we can see the products in our cart, modify our cart, and create an order. For this lesson, we're going to focus on this right section, which calculates the cost of our cart, including the cost of the products, shipping, and taxes. This section is a great way to learn numbers and math in JavaScript. First, let's open the console again so we can write JavaScript code. We're going to find a blank area of the web page, right-click, click Inspect, and then click the console. So we already saw some examples of math in the previous lesson. For example, we wrote the code 2 plus 2. If we press enter, the computer adds these two numbers and results in 4. We also did 10 minus 3. If we press enter, the computer subtracts these two numbers and gives us 7. In addition to adding and subtracting, we can also multiply and divide. To multiply, we're going to type 10 star 3 and press enter. So star is the character for multiplying. To divide, we're going to type 10/2 and press enter. So / is the character for dividing. Now let's learn the syntax rules for numbers and math. The syntax for math is pretty straightforward in JavaScript. We just write it out like normal math. We can also do math with more than two numbers. For example, we can add 2 plus 2 and then plus another 2. If we press enter, the computer will add these three numbers together and result in 6. And finally, JavaScript can handle decimal numbers like 2.2 plus 2.2. If we press enter, it will calculate these decimal numbers and result in 4.4. Now let's do some practical examples. We're going to calculate the numbers here in our final project. But first, let's set up our cart so we have the same products in our cart. So make sure in your cart you have 2 socks with free shipping, and you have 1 basketball with $4.99 of shipping, and nothing else in your cart. If you need to, you can modify your cart by clicking Update or Delete, or by going to the home page by clicking in the top left and adding any products that you're missing. Once you have the same products as me in your cart, and you have the same numbers on the right, we're ready to begin. Let's start by calculating this number up here. This is the cost of the products before shipping and taxes. To calculate this number using JavaScript, we're just going to add the cost of the products. So in our console, we're going to add the cost of the socks, which is $10.90. We have 2 of them, so we're going to multiply this by 2. And then we're going to add the cost of the basketball. So plus $20.95. If we press enter, the computer will do this math calculation and give us this number. And if we scroll to the top of our project, you'll see that the number that we got matches what we have on the page. So that's how we use JavaScript to calculate this number here. Let's do another example. We're going to calculate this third number, which is the cost of the products plus shipping. Feel free to pause the video if you want to try it yourself first. Otherwise, we'll do it together. Let's go back to our console, and we're going to add the cost of the products again, which is $10.90 times 2 plus $20.95. But this time, we're going to add the cost of shipping, which is $4.99. So 4.99, and press enter. The computer will do this calculation and give us this number, which matches what we see in the final project. Next, we're going to learn a very important feature of math called the order of operations. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, these are called operations, and the characters in the middle are called operators. Now, there's a certain order that we do these operations. For example, if we go back to our console and type the calculation 1 plus 1 times 3 and press enter, notice that it multiplies 1 times 3 first, which equals 3, and then adds 1, which equals 4. Notice that it does not add 1 plus 1 first, which equals 2, and then 2 times 3 equals 6. The way math normally works is that multiply and divide are done first. Add and subtract are done after. This is called the order of operations, and JavaScript follows the same rules. Multiply and divide are done first. Add and subtract are done after. The order of operations is also called operator precedence in JavaScript. One thing to note is that multiply and divide have the same priority. So if we have both in a calculation, it will calculate from left to right. Add and subtract also have the same priority. If we have both in a calculation, it will also calculate from left to right. Another feature of the order of operations is that we can use brackets to control which part of the calculation gets done first. For example, let's type out this calculation again. 1 plus 1 times 3. But this time, we're going to add an open bracket and a close bracket around 1 plus 1. If we press enter, now the calculation inside the brackets will be done first. So it will add 1 plus 1 equals 2, and then 2 times 3 equals 6. So when we use brackets, JavaScript will always do the calculation inside the brackets first, and then do the rest of the calculation. Brackets have the highest priority in the order of operations. Now let's learn the syntax rules for brackets. So we just have to have a matching open bracket and close bracket. So something like this doesn't work because we have 2 open brackets and no close bracket. We also need to have a complete calculation in the brackets. So this also doesn't work because 1 plus 1 multiply is not a complete calculation. Now let's do some practical examples using the order of operations. First, we're going to do some more setup in the final project. So we're actually going to remove all the products in our cart. And then once our cart is empty, we'll go to the home page by clicking the top left. And this time, we're going to add some new products. So we'll add 1 basketball and 2 t-shirts. Now let's go back to our cart by clicking the top right. We'll scroll down, and we're going to calculate the numbers in this section again. Let's calculate this number at the top, which is the cost of the products. We'll go back to our console and add the cost of the basketball, which is $20.95, plus the cost of the t-shirts, which is $7.99. And we have 2 of them. So we'll multiply this by 2. If we press enter, this will give us the number that we see in the final project here. Notice that in this calculation, we're taking advantage of the order of operations. Even though multiply is written last, we still multiply these 2 numbers first. So we calculate the cost of 2 t-shirts first, and then we add the cost of the basketball after. Okay, now let's try something a little more difficult. We're going to learn how to calculate this 10% tax here. So how do we calculate 10% of something? Unfortunately, we can't just multiply by 10% in JavaScript. Instead, we have to calculate the percent manually. So how do we do that? 1% is actually equal to 1 divided by 100. That's what percent means. So 10% is equal to 10 divided by 100, which equals 0.1. So to calculate 10% manually, we just multiply this number by 0.1. So we'll type 36.93 multiplied by 10%, or 0.1. If we press enter, it will give us a number that is close to what we have in the final project. It's the same amount of money, but our number is more accurate than we need. So later in this lesson, we'll learn how to round this number down to exactly what we have on the web page. For now, let's do some more practice with the order of operations. Let's calculate the tax again, except instead of using the final number, 36.93, let's calculate this number individually, like here. So at the bottom, we're going to add the cost of the basketball, 20.95, plus the cost of the t-shirts, 7.99 times 2, and then multiply this by the tax percent, times 0.1, and press enter. Unfortunately, this number doesn't match what we got up here. And that's because if we look at this calculation, according to the order of operations, multiply is done first. So it will multiply these 3 numbers first, and then add 20.95 after. However, this is not what we want. We actually want to calculate this number first. This is the cost of the products. So how do we get the computer to calculate this first, and then multiply by the tax percent 0.1? To do this, we can use brackets to control which part of the calculation gets done first. So let's create this calculation again. 20.95 plus 7.99 times 2. But this time, we're going to add brackets around this part of the calculation to make sure that this gets calculated first. And then at the end, we'll multiply it by the tax percent 0.1. And now if we press enter, we will get the same number that we had before. So that's how we use math and the order of operations to calculate the numbers in this section of the final project. So don't worry, you don't have to be good at math to learn JavaScript. This is just to show you how math works in JavaScript. In the rest of this lesson, we're going to learn some more details about numbers and math. The first detail we're going to learn is a weird behavior of math in JavaScript. First, we'll need to learn some terminology. In programming, whole numbers like 2, 3, and 4 are called integers. Decimal numbers like 2.2 and 2.5 are called floating point numbers, or floats. And unfortunately, computers have a problem working with floats. For example, if we go back to our console and type the calculation 0.1 plus 0.2 and press enter, it will give us this weird number here that's close to 0.3 but a little bit inaccurate. So this problem is not specific to JavaScript. Many programming languages also have this problem. The reason this happens is because of how computers store numbers. I'll give a simplified explanation. Computers can only store zeros and ones, while humans can count from 0 to 9. So there's sort of a mismatch between our number systems. For integers, this is not a problem. The computer can just use a bunch of zeros and ones to store it. However, for decimal numbers or floats, sometimes the computer can't store the number properly. For example, here's how the computer tries to store 0.2 using only zeros and ones. At the top is what the computer stores. At the bottom is what this is equal to in human numbers. We can see that the computer gets closer and closer to 0.2, but never actually reaches it. And this is why we get these inaccuracies when calculating with floats, because computers can't store some floats properly. Note that this doesn't happen with all floats. For example, computers can store 0.25 without any problems. So these inaccuracies only happen with some floats, but not all of them. However, when calculating money, we definitely want to avoid any inaccuracies. So let's learn how to do that. First, we're going to set up our cart again. So make sure in your cart you have one basketball with free shipping, and this time you have one t-shirt. So we're going to click Update, change this to 1, and click Save. And this t-shirt also has free shipping. Now let's scroll up, and we're going to calculate this number at the top again, which is the cost of the products. Let's go into our console, and we're going to add the cost of the basketball, $20.95, plus the cost of the t-shirt, which is $7.99. If we press enter, calculating with these floats causes the inaccuracies that we saw earlier. So how do we avoid this problem? The best practice when calculating money is to calculate in cents instead of dollars. So instead of $20.95, we're going to calculate 2,095 cents plus 7.99 cents. Notice we're not using floats anymore, so we avoid the inaccuracies. But now this number is in cents, so we need to convert back to dollars. To do that, we'll surround this calculation with brackets to make sure we calculate this first, and then at the end, we'll divide by 100 to convert back to dollars, because there are 100 cents in each dollar. If we press enter and scroll up, that's how we get the exact number that we see on the page. So remember, in programming, calculations with floats are sometimes inaccurate. And when working with money, the best practice is to do the calculation in cents and then convert back to dollars at the end. The next detail we're going to learn is how to round a number in JavaScript. Rounding just means taking a number and moving it to the nearest integer. To round a number, we can use this code. Capital M math dot round. Open bracket, close bracket. So make sure you use a capital M because JavaScript is case sensitive. Now between the brackets, we can put a number that we want to round, like 2.2. If we press enter, it will round this number down to 2. If we do capital M math dot round open bracket close bracket, and between the brackets we put 2.8 and press enter, it will round 2.8 up to 3. Now let's do a practical example with math.round. We're going to calculate the tax again, but this time we're going to round the result to exactly this number on the page. So first, let's calculate the tax. We'll go into our console and add the cost of the products in cents. So 2,095 cents for the basketball, and plus the cost of the t-shirt, which is 7.99 cents. And we'll surround this in brackets to make sure we calculate this first. And then we're going to multiply this by the tax percent, or 0.1. And finally, we'll convert this back to dollars. So let's surround this in brackets as well to make sure we calculate this first. And at the end, we'll divide by 100 to convert back to dollars. So notice here, we can have brackets inside brackets. In this situation, JavaScript will calculate the inner brackets first, and then the outer brackets, and then everything else. If we press enter, this gives us 2.894, which is close to the number on the page. It's the same amount of money, but our number is more accurate than we need. So now let's learn how to use math.round to round this number to exactly 2.89. First, let's create a copy of this calculation. So we'll select it, right-click, copy, and down here, right-click and paste. By the way, if you paste in the console, you might see this warning message. To fix this, you can type allow pasting and press enter. And now you can paste. So let's continue. And we were trying to round 2.894 to exactly 2.89. So one thing we might try to do is to round this entire calculation. However, this will round 2.894 to 3 because it rounds to the nearest integer. Instead, what we want to round is this number here. So remember that this number is the result in cents, which is 289.4 cents. If we round this number, it will round down to 289 cents, which is exactly $2.89. So to round this calculation, at the front, we'll type capital M math dot round. So we already have brackets around this, so we don't need extra brackets. So this will round to 289 cents. And finally, we'll convert this back to dollars at the end by dividing by 100. If we press enter, that's how we round this calculation to get the exact number on the page. So to summarize, we first calculate the result in cents, and then we round this to the nearest cent, and then at the end, we convert back to dollars. Again, don't worry, you don't have to be good at math to learn JavaScript. These examples are just for learning. Almost all the math we do in JavaScript is more simple than this. I'll give you some exercises at the end of this lesson to help you get more practice. The last thing we're going to learn in this lesson is how to use Google when you're learning to code. So far, I've been giving you different pieces of code, like alert and math.round. You might be wondering, where do I find this code? These pieces of code are features of JavaScript, and I find this code by searching on Google. So we're going to learn how to use Google to learn new features of JavaScript on our own. Let's go to our browser and create a new tab at the top. And we'll click here and type google.com and press enter. And we'll search in Google. So the trick to searching in Google is to search for what we are trying to do. For example, if we want to round a number, we would search for JavaScript how to round a number. If we press enter, sometimes you might get the code right away in the first result, and sometimes you might have to go into the other results to find the code that you need. In my example, I see the code math.round in the first result, so I can click into this result, read about what this code does, and also see some examples of how to use it. One thing to keep in mind is that when you're searching in Google, you might not understand all the code that you get in your results. For example, here, there's a lot of code that we haven't learned yet. And actually, that's okay. We just need to look for the pieces of code that look familiar to us, like this part of the code. We can then use this part of the code in our own code. We don't have to understand every bit of code that we get from Google. And don't worry, as we move through this course, we will understand more and more of this code that we get from Google results. These days, we also have some artificial intelligence or AI tools that can help us search for code. I'll provide links to some of these tools in the video description. By the way, to find the links mentioned in each lesson, you can click here in the description. And this page contains all the links mentioned in each lesson. And that's the end of this lesson. In this lesson, we learned how to work with numbers and math. We learned the order of operations and brackets. We calculated the numbers in the final Amazon project. We learned that calculations using floats can be inaccurate and how to avoid this problem when working with money. We learned how to round numbers using math.round, and we learned how to search for code on our own. Here are some exercises to help you practice numbers and math. In the previous lesson, we learned how to work with numbers and math. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to work with text, and we're going to create the text in this section of the final project. First, make sure you have the final project open and you're on the checkout page. Also make sure you have the console open on this page. If not, you can go to a blank area, right-click, click Inspect, and then click the console. Now, we're going to learn a feature of JavaScript called strings. A string represents text. Let's go to our console and create our first string. We're going to type single quote, hello, and single quote, and press enter. This is a string, and it represents the text hello. And we've actually seen this code before. In the first lesson, the first piece of code that we learned was alert, open bracket, single quote, hello, single quote, close bracket, and semicolon. This code creates a pop-up on the page. If we press enter, it creates a pop-up. Now inside these brackets, we actually created a string. This string is the text that appears in the pop-up. So as you can see, a string represents text. Let's press OK. And now let's learn the syntax rules for strings. To create a string, we just write some text like hello, and then surround this text with single quotes, one at the beginning and one at the end. We can also add strings together. For example, let's type the string sum plus the string text and press enter. When we add two strings, it combines the strings together into a bigger string. And this makes sense. We're adding two pieces of text together. We can also add more than two strings at a time. For example, we can type the string sum plus the string more plus the string text. If we press enter, the computer will combine all three strings into one big string. By the way, this is called concatenation when we combine strings together. Now, in the previous lesson, we learned about numbers. Numbers and strings are two different types of values in JavaScript. They represent different things. And we can actually check what type of value something is using this code. Type of, and then space, and then a value, like the number 2. If we press enter, type of will tell us that 2 is a number. If we do type of quote hello quote and press enter, it will tell us that hello is a string. Now, what if we added a string and a number together? For example, let's type the string hello plus the number 3 and press enter. So when we add a string and a number, JavaScript will automatically convert this number into a string. So this gets converted into the string hello plus the string 3. And then it combines them together into the string hello 3. This feature is called type coercion or automatic type conversion. Okay, now that we understand the basics of strings, let's do some practical examples. We're going to use strings and numbers to create the text in this section of the project. First, make sure that in your cart you have one basketball with free shipping, and you have one t-shirt, also with free shipping, and you have no other products. Let's scroll up, and we'll start by creating this text in the top right. So this is the cost of the products, but this time we're going to have a $sign. So instead of just a number, this will be text. So one thing we can do to create this text is just type out the string directly, like quote $28.94 and quote. However, let's actually calculate this number using math. Remember, the advantage of JavaScript is that it's able to do calculations. So instead of typing out 28.94, we're just going to create the string $sign plus, and we're going to calculate this number using math. So we're going to add the cost of the basketball, which is $20.95, plus the cost of the t-shirt, which is $7.99. If we press enter, unfortunately, this doesn't look right. Instead of doing math and adding these two numbers together, it just sort of put the numbers one after another into the string. So why is this happening? JavaScript adds from left to right. So the first step is to add these two values. And as we learned, if we add a string and a number, JavaScript will automatically convert this number into a string. So the result of this calculation will be the string $20.95 and quote. The next step is to add 7.99. So it will add 7.99. And now we're adding again a string and a number. So JavaScript will automatically convert this number into a string and combine them together. That's why it puts 7.99 at the end of this string instead of doing math. So what we actually want to do here is to add these two numbers first and then combine the total with the string. So how do we do this? The solution is that strings also follow the order of operations, just like numbers. And remember, in the order of operations, we can use brackets to control which part of a calculation gets done first. So let's type this calculation out again. The string $ plus 20.95 plus 7.99. But this time, we're going to add an open bracket and a close bracket around this calculation. This tells the computer to calculate this number first using math, and then combine this result with the string after. If we press enter, now this is doing math, and it solves our original problem. Unfortunately, now we have another problem. This math is inaccurate. So remember from the previous lesson, doing calculations with floats can sometimes cause inaccuracies. And the best practice when calculating money is always calculate in cents and then convert back to dollars at the end. So at the bottom here, we're going to add the string $ plus open bracket, and instead of $20.95, we're going to add 2,095 cents plus 7.99 cents and close bracket. And then at the end, we're going to convert this number back to dollars by dividing by 100. If we press enter, this will give us the text that we see in the final project. Again, strings follow the same order of operations as numbers. Brackets are always calculated first, multiply and divide are done next, and add and subtract are done after. So adding this result to the string is the last step. Now let's do a more complicated example. Let's use strings and numbers to create this entire line of text, not just the dollar text. To create this, we're going to go from left to right. Let's go back in our console, and we're going to start with the string items, open bracket, and here we could just type 2 and close bracket, but let's actually calculate this number as well using math. So this number is the quantity, or the number of products in our cart. Let's go back to our console. We're going to end the string here, and we're going to add, and we're going to calculate the quantity. So we have 1 basketball plus 1 t-shirt. Again, we run into the same problem as before. This gets calculated first and results in a string, and then it will just combine the 1 at the end of the string instead of doing math. To solve this, we're going to use brackets again. So around the 1 plus 1, we're going to add open bracket and close bracket. This tells the computer to add the numbers first and then combine it with a string. All right, let's keep going from left to right. We're going to add the rest of the string, quote, close bracket, colon, and let's just use a space to represent the space between these two. So we'll type a space, $, and then we're going to calculate this number again and add it to the string. So we'll end the string and then plus, and we already did this calculation up here. So we can select this and then right click, copy, and here right click and paste and press enter. By the way, if you paste in the console, you might see this warning message. To fix this, you can type allow pasting and press enter. And now you can paste. And that's how we create this first line of text using strings and numbers. We break up the string into parts, calculate the numbers, and then add the parts back together. All right, now let's take these strings that we created and do something with them. Let's create a pop-up and display this first line of text inside the pop-up. We'll go back to our console and type the code for creating a pop-up, alert, open bracket, close bracket, semicolon, and then inside the pop-up, we're going to display this string. So let's just make a copy of this code. We'll select it, right click, copy, and between the brackets, right click and paste. If we press enter, the computer displays a pop-up with the first line of text of the final project inside. So that's how we use strings to create the text in the final project. And once we create the strings, we can use them in other JavaScript code. In the rest of this lesson, we're going to learn more details about strings. In JavaScript, there are actually 3 ways to create a string. The first way is to use single quotes, which we already learned. For example, we can type single quote, hello, and single quote, and press enter. The second way to create a string is to use double quotes. For example, double quote, hello, and double quote, and press enter. This creates the exact same string as single quotes. So which one should we use to create a string? Single quotes or double quotes? In JavaScript, I recommend using single quotes by default. They're a little easier to read and type. There is one situation where double quotes might be useful, and that is if we have a single quote inside the string. For example, if we type the string I'm learning JavaScript and single quote and press enter, this doesn't work because there's a single quote inside the string, and this single quote will end the string early. To solve this, we can create the string using double quotes. For example, double quote, I'm learning JavaScript, and double quote, and press enter. So now this works. Because we created the string using double quotes, the single quote no longer has a special meaning, and it will no longer end the string early. So this is a situation where double quotes might be useful. Otherwise, we use single quotes by default. Now, there's actually another solution to this problem, other than using double quotes, and that's by using an escape character. So a character is one letter, number, or symbol in a piece of text. For example, the text hello has 5 characters, H, E, L, L, O. A character can be a letter, a number, or also a symbol. These are all considered characters. Now, in addition to these characters, we have a special set of characters we can also use in a string called escape characters. An escape character looks like this: a backslash and then another character, like single quote. This combination actually counts as one character in a string. This character creates a single quote that is just text. It doesn't have a special meaning, and it doesn't start or end strings. For example, we can create this string with single quotes again. So single quote I, and this time we'll use the escape character backslash single quote, and then M learning JavaScript and single quote, and press enter. And now this works because the escape character backslash single quote creates a single quote that is just text. It doesn't start or end the string. Another escape character that's useful to know is backslash double quote. This creates a double quote that is just text. It doesn't start or end a string. The last escape character we'll learn in this lesson is backslash n. This is called the new line character. This escape character doesn't create the letter n anymore. It creates a new line of text. For example, let's create a pop-up using alert, open bracket, close bracket, and semicolon. And then inside the brackets, we're going to create a string sum and then backslash n text and single quote. If we press enter, you'll notice that this escape character created a new line of text in the pop-up. And that's why we call this the new line character. So that's how escape characters work. They're a set of special characters that start with backslash, and we can use them in a string. Now let's press OK. And we're going to learn the third way of creating a string in JavaScript, which is using backticks. For example, let's type in our console, and we'll type backtick, hello, and backtick, and press enter. This creates the same string as single quotes and double quotes. Strings created with backticks actually have a name. We call these template strings, and they have a name because they have some special features. The first special feature of template strings is called interpolation. Interpolation lets us insert a value directly into a string. For example, let's say we want to create the first line of text in our project. Earlier in this lesson, we created this text with concatenation, which means we broke it up into parts and added them back together. Interpolation gives us a much easier way to do this. We'll go to our console and we'll create this text using a template string because interpolation is only a feature of template strings. So we'll type backtick items, open bracket, close bracket, and backtick. And now between these brackets, we want to insert the quantity or the number of products in our cart. To insert this with interpolation, we're going to type $, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. So this combination of characters allows us to insert values directly into the string. Between these curly brackets, we can calculate the quantity, which is 1 basketball plus 1 t-shirt. This will add 1 plus 1, which equals 2, and then insert it directly into the string. Let's keep going and create the rest of this line. So we're going to type at the end a colon, space, and $, and now we're going to insert another value into the string, which is the cost of the products. To insert another value, we're going to type $, open curly bracket, close curly bracket again. And between the curly brackets, we're going to calculate the cost of the products, which is 2,095 cents plus 799 cents. And we'll surround this in brackets to make sure we calculate this first. And at the end, we're going to convert back to dollars by dividing by 100. If we press enter, this creates the first line of text again, in our final project. If we compare this code, which uses interpolation, to our previous code, which uses concatenation, you can see that interpolation is a much cleaner way of inserting values into a string. So interpolation is a recommended solution. Next, template strings have another special feature called multi-line strings. Let's go to our console, and we're going to type a backtick, sum, and then press enter. And text.